But before I go into introducing the topic, I'd like to introduce our panel today. We have Stimela Usingi. He is a senior HRM advisor, chairs Kalongwe Mining Group 12. Then we have Mrs. Wayne, who's an HR speaker. So before we kick off with Stimela Usingi, I will briefly give an introduction, because for right now, it is said that it's not what you know, but technical know who will land you a job in this continent. What can HR do to change this conception? How can HR contribute to the eradication of corruption in the continent? It is common knowledge many African continents feature in the top 10 of most corrupt countries in the list. The institutions in these countries are not devoid of HR. So as organizations are being listed as corrupt, is then HR corrupt by association? And how can HR contribute to cleaning up its accusation by association? That is the brief description of the topic. So we'll now kick off with Stimela Usingi, who will start with this presentation. Welcome, Stimela. Hello, Stimela. Are you getting me, Stimela?
I think he's not yet on.
Okay.
I don't think he's joined yet.
Okay, hello. Stimela will be right back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay. But still you can continue.
Okay. So, Mrs. Wayne.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Wane Wishimanga. I'm an HR specialist, specialized in training and development, as well as in compensation and the transformation, culture transformation. Sorry. I need to put my phone on silent. Okay. Well, I think this is going to be a discussion that we are going to have, because really I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, but we shall just discuss openly and talk about corruption. I think we all know that corruption is a poison in Africa, and really it has affected Africa greatly. Africa is failing to develop because of corruption. And there is a saying nowadays that if corruption favors you, then it's called a connection. I think we have seen a lot of people calling corruption as a connection when actually it is not. But really, as HR people, I think we have a responsibility to ensure that we put a stop to this corruption, because really, if we're going to be employing people that don't deserve to get jobs in these organizations, then we are saying that there will not be productivity. Because really, if you get people who are not qualified for these jobs, but have gotten jobs, good paying jobs, decision-making positions, yet there are people that cannot actually perform in these particular jobs, it means that is hampering productivity, and really it is difficult. It makes it difficult for an organization to thrive. So you find that no matter how good a strategy you may have in place, really if you have people that are not qualified, people that don't understand their roles, then it means these people cannot actually bring in their best and do their best to ensure that they achieve on their job. So corruption really is an evil, and we need to stand up to it and ensure that we put a stop to corruption. And it starts with us, because as HR, we are the ones that identify the right talent, people that can come and join the organization. But if we have people that are being brought to join an organization based on connections, I think that is a problem. So for me, I feel we need to be advocates as HRs and stop being rubber stamps as we do our role, because I don't know about other African countries, but you find that in Zambia, some years back, now it's getting better. People just used to think like human resource is just work that involves working with papers, okay, and stamping documents and approving leaves and all that. But now we have gotten beyond that, and we as HR can actually put a stop to a lot of things that are happening right now, starting with corruption. Really, it is a barrier to progress, and honestly, in many ways, more than one. And from an HR perspective, it comes with unprofessional conduct if we allow people to be recruited in organizations that are coming without experience, without the right qualifications. I think we have to stand up to it and ensure that we don't compromise, because that will mean that the output won't be the desired output. Our mandate is to ensure that we put the right people in the right positions, meaning that output is guaranteed. Good output is guaranteed, and as well as quality. Yeah, I think that's what I can say for now.
Mrs. Wayne?
Yes, please.
Now, I think what we can do, your moderator keeps on popping in and out. Maybe what you could do is, maybe you could share with us on what you believe are what are the drawbacks that corruption is causing to Africa's development. And then, hello, so that is okay? Mrs. Wayne? Hello, Mrs. Wayne and Stimela, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Sorry, I think we had a technical issue. Stimela was on board. I don't know what he dropped off. So maybe there was a question raised in the audience. Maybe you could share that. There's a question of there was this question by Jabulani. I'm just trying to open it. Around the effects of corruption, what it actually causes for the continent. Oh yeah, so why is corruption so rampant in Africa? Is it an issue of poverty or what?
Well, I don't think we can really say that Africa is poor. I think Africa is endowed with a lot of natural resources, and really these resources that we have, if we put good use to them, I think we can actually become the richest continent, because all these other continents are coming into Africa to actually tap from Africa and get our raw materials and go and process them out there. But really what I can just say is African leaders are selfish, they have got their self-interest in whatever that they do. So you find that even if these leaders are elected, or political leaders are elected, or even just people who are in decision-making positions, I think their interest mostly is to save themselves, to benefit themselves before they can serve the people. So I think poverty is not one thing that I can say we are poor. We have the resources, and now we have great minds in Africa. We have people that are educated, but like I'm saying, because of corruption, you find that it is only people who are connected to somebody who can get the best for themselves in Africa. Really, if you don't know anyone, you can't get anything in Africa, which is a wrong notion. and a wrong practice, because that is affecting people that are willing to save and are willing to change the way Africa can actually benefit from the resources that we have, and also contributes worldwide. So for me, I think it's nothing to do with poverty. It's just everything to do with the misappropriation of funds, misapplication of funds, really, that is causing other sectors to be affected, because monies that are supposed to be channeled towards education, that are supposed to be channeled towards health, monies that are supposed to be channeled towards economic development is being misappropriated. People are getting that money for their own benefits. So you're finding that it's not really that we don't have the resources, but the people, the leaders, they've got their own self-interest. So you can find that even that trickles down even to the HR people. You find that HR people have got an opportunity to recruit the right people with the right skills, but because they want to bring on board people that they know, a relative, a child to a friend, all those issues are affecting the way, affecting development in Africa. So for me, I really think we are not poor. We cannot talk poverty. I think we need to have a mindset change and look at things a little differently, so that as Africans, we can develop Africa and make Africa a better place for ourselves and our generations to come.
Okay, thank you. Stimela and Dr. Dotun will be joining us in a short while. But what do you think? How would the continent look like if there was no corruption?
Oh my God, there would be a lot of opportunities for
Hello,
everybody.
Mrs. Wayne.
Yes, please.
Okay, maybe you could expound. What do you mean there would be opportunities? I was asking, maybe you could expound. What kind of opportunities do you foresee?
Yes, I think.
Mrs. Wayne, you had my question.
Yeah, please repeat your question.
Sorry, Mrs. Wayne, I don't know if you had my question.
Can you hear me?
I had asked before that. Yes, I can. Yeah, I had asked if there was no if there was no corruption, what you think, how you think the continent would be, and you mentioned that there would be opportunities, and I was asking if you could expound a little bit on what you think those opportunities would look like and what they would be.
Okay. I think to start with, there'll be job opportunities for people, because really you can look at statistics and just look at the number of qualified people that we have in Africa. I think I may not have the correct statistics for say Nigeria. In Nigeria, there are a lot of qualified people that have got first degrees, who've got masters, PhDs, but these people, most of these people, can't get into formal employment. So you find that there are more people that are qualified, yet there are very few jobs, and these few jobs are as a result of government failing to create these jobs. And also you find that our education system, they ensure that it is more preparing you to get a formal job. It doesn't focus more on entrepreneurship, where people can actually be trained to be their own bosses, create more jobs for people. But you find that the people will be qualified, but then their mindset is towards them getting a formal job. So really, I think the opportunities would be more investments. You find that we'll have a lot of investors coming into Africa, trying to invest in Africa. And when that happens, those are more jobs being created for Africans. And now you're finding that because of even some laws, luckily here in Zambia, there are some laws where they have the laws are restricting expatriates, from working in these organizations. But you find that there are some countries where expatriates come doing jobs of locals, so you find that in the end, Africans are being disadvantaged, because at the end of the day, the Western world is coming into Africa and reaping the best out of Africa, and yet our people still remain poor and disadvantaged. So really, a lot of opportunities will be created in terms of universities. Okay, we have some African countries where there are very few universities. Okay, maybe secondary schools or primary schools, they're very few. So you find that these people do not have access to education. People that are in the rural areas, okay, they've got no access to education. So all these are opportunities that would be created, and you find that it would be a better place. If you look at the health system, okay, we have a lot of people that are dying from diseases that are not even supposed to kill them, okay? But because we don't have a good health system, you find that we have a lot of people who are dying. We're losing young people, people who would be productive and add value to our continent. They are dying early at a tender age. Okay, so really, these are some of the consequences of corruption and affecting development in Africa.
Hello, Mrs. Wayne.
Yes, please.
Okay, you're getting me?
Yes, I can get you.
So, as an HR, what is the role of an HR in such a situation whereby we have corruption within an organization? What is the HR role? Especially, we know that, especially during recruitment, there's that bit whereby mostly in most companies, let me not mention any, but
Yes.
you find that you are extorted in order for you to get a specific job. So,
Yeah.
what is the role of an HR to ensure such a thing does not happen?
I think the most important thing as an HR is really to be objective during the recruitment and selection process.
Okay.
You need to be independent as an HR and ensure that as you shortlist people for or identify talent, that is talent from the pool of people that are actually applying for positions, ensure that you have an independent mind and not where you have people that are. We have seen situations, for example, where we see people apply for certain jobs and HR people are being told in advance to say, can you consider this person? Consider this person. I think as HR, we need to put our foot down and ensure that we only recruit people that are qualified and meet the requirements for the job and not people that are corrupt, because we need to recruit people who fit in these jobs, people who can actually perform in these jobs. And now what we see nowadays is people just recommending that recruit this person even when they are not qualified for the job. They don't have the right experience. And really from the start, that's where we get it wrong. Because if we bring people that are unqualified in the organization or people that can't perform on the job, just CEO knows them because maybe this manager says, I have somebody I can bring because they worked with this person before. That is poison for the organization. And you discover that such organizations are not productive. So for me, I think as HR, we have to advocate that right people,
Hello?
right skill is recruited and brought in the
Hello?
organization. Hello?
Okay, sorry. I'm where I am is not conducive, but I will try and see what I can do. Thank you.
Thank
Hello?
you,
Okay.
Dr. Yes, we are getting you, Dr. Jegede.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry.
it's okay, no problem. Once you're in a place where it's conducive, it's okay. You can always just join the session. So, Mrs. Wanne, kind.
Hello? Can you get me?
I can hear you. Hello, I
Hello?
can hear you. Hello, I can hear
Oh,
you.
yes, please.
You were saying something. I didn't hear you clearly well.
Okay. So a question was, oh, okay. Stimela has joined as well.
Thank you, Martin, for your assistance.
We are saying, what is the role of HR in these organizations to ensure that, Teresa, are you there? Okay, what's our role as HR to ensure that this corruption is minimized, or rather eradicated in organizations? I think. Did I hear you well? Where's Teresa? Maybe she can rephrase the question. Please just rephrase the question, Teresa. At least we have Doc and Stimela that have joined in. They can also just add their views on the same.
Yeah, Wani.
Yes, Stimela.
Yes, what was the question? Because I had a technical problem, and it just has been just sorted out by Martin. So they can refresh with the question, or can continue with the.
Yes, I think let's continue. I think we were waiting for you to also join in. So maybe probably we can just continue. You can just join the discussion. Corruption drawbacks to Africa's development, the role of HR. What's your view on that one?
Okay, thanks so much for that. I can tell you that people are considering. I've got a high considerations on we HR because human resources. I used to say human resources is the key role within the organization. And some of the time, if I have a discussion with my boss, the CEO or the managing director or the general manager, I used to advise them because we have the role to advise the management. We are not HR just for recruiting people. We are not HR just only to drafting contract, employees contract. We are not HR just to conducting hearing disciplinary, but we are also advisors because we are doing like the same job with the legal advisor within the company. So I can just try to give you one example because it's a reality in my past company. We advert one position. It was for a mechanical technician, but we did the advert. We received CVs, a lot of CVs. When we start conducting technical tests or practical tests with the head of department, we received one guy. He said, "Guys, for sure, I'm a lawyer, but I want to be a mechanical technician. I've got experience, but I want you guys to give me this opportunity. Like it will be my first job to join the company as a mechanical." I know he tried to explain like he has been trained by INPP here in DRC. We called INPP is a government office trying to train people. I don't know how you are calling it in your different countries, but here in DRC we have got a government office on which you can send people to be trained, even our employees. But that guy, when I try to investigate behind that guy, he tried to drop money to the head of department or a supervisor within the department. But someone come in my office and try to tell me, Mr. Stimela, be careful because this guy, he tell me the name, he dropped some money in the supervisor office. We conduct the interview or the practical test. We finish, but I should give also my point of view after the interview. But I can see that the head of department was trying to push me to employ that candidate, the lawyer. And when I tried to invite that candidate in my office, trying to talk with him, he told me the truth that because of losing the job, I tried to drop some money to someone within the company. You can see where corruption is going to bring us. Someone is looking for the job, but to look for the job is not easy to get a job if you have got knowledge, if you have got competencies and skills. But what I'm trying to say through this explanation, I'm trying to tell you is, here in Africa, we have got a big problem, especially when we are recruiting people. And this is our responsibility. When we are implementing procedures and policies, what are we putting in to avoid this happening in our future within our companies? For example, I used to say, we can get money, a real money, we can get a proper money through our work, but don't use corruption when we are recruiting people, because this will bring us to what I can say. This will bring us to a bad future. We will employ right people if we follow proper procedure and policies when we are recruiting. But if we introduce corruption in the recruitment process, we can't even recruit good people and qualify people because of corruption. And in the future, our productivity are going to be reduced because of that. Because if we don't recruit right people on the right positions, it will affect our.
Okay, can I say a few things? That was a good one. That was an insightful one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share on this subject of corruption as a drawback in Africa. Sometimes last year, MTN was fined to the tune of about 10 billion naira in Nigeria. And this was as a result of the breach in one of the directives by the NCC. The NCC is the body that regulates communication in Nigeria. So MTN was found culpable, and the fine of 10 billion was pronounced for breaking the protocols or breaking the rules or guidelines of NCC. So, as a result of the volume of the fine, MTN had to resort back to seeking intervention from South Africa, the parents, their own country. Unfortunately, they couldn't resolve it. So MTN went further to engage about 10 SANs, top leading senior advocate of Nigeria. That's the highest or the apex level, a lawyer could be in Nigeria. So they got about 10.
I think we have a situation. Dr. Jegede has dropped off, so we'll move on as we wait for him to rejoin the session. So Stimela, kindly continue.
Jody, I can't hear Stimela. I don't know if you can.
As well, I'm not able to get him. I don't understand. Stimela, kindly check if you have unmuted your mic because we are not able to get you. Stimela, kindly check your audio because we are not able to get you at all. Hello, Stimela. Okay, Rachel, kindly assist us on that. As we wait for Rachel to assist us on that, or Teresia, Mrs. Wane, kindly take us through the effects of corruption within an organization. Mrs. Wane?
Hello?
Yes, you're getting me?
Yes, I can get you.
Yes, as we wait for Stimela's audio to be sorted out, can we go on, carry on with the effects of corruption within an organization?
Okay. I think from an HR perspective, I think one of the effects would be definitely reduction in productivity, because really, if you're going to recruit people that are not able to perform, then it means as an organization you are not going to be able to achieve your goals. So you find that you have a good strategy in place, but then when you reach implementation stage, people are not able to perform on the job, and you find that you are not able to achieve according to what you intend to achieve. Of course, also we can look at the effects where we see people saving their interests. I think there's an aspect where instead of people being able to save the interest of the people, of the stakeholders, they are in that organization just basically to save their own interests and benefit themselves. So really, you see individuals, or you see CEOs or management that is saving only their interests. They don't want to 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 give employees an experience that is exceptional, that is according to the way things are supposed to be done. And that also demoralizes employees in a way, because you find that there is demotivation. Employees get to be demotivated, and in the end you get to lose the best talent, because when the workforce begins to see that you have got right decisions are not being made, people are not being rewarded the way they are supposed to be rewarded, management is not making decisions that favor the employees. When employees begin to get frustrated, those that feel they cannot hang on, they'll just leave the organization. In the end, you find that you remain with people that are not able to perform on the job. So demotivation trickles in, and when demotivation trickles in, I think it hampers productivity really, because everybody just feels like I won't put in my best, because if I put in my best, I won't be rewarded. My efforts won't be recognized. And a human being, the moment they begin to feel like that, it means people begin to drag. They can't come for work. People begin to call in sick. There are all sorts of excuses. And in the end, that organization, that's the beginning of the downfall. So really the effects are big. The effects are massive. We can also talk in areas of recruitment, maybe promotion. Okay, you find that it affects the way people perform in their job, because even when they get promoted, okay, you want to change things, you want to bring fresh ideas, but because the people who are in management, or you find that ourselves as HR, instead of being these advisors, being the bridge between management and the employees, we begin to take a stance and lean more on management and forget the people that we are supposed to represent as HR. So I think the effects are massive.
Thank you, Mrs. Wane. Yes, thank you. Okay, for Stimela. Stimela, are you back? We still can't hear you, Stimela. Hello? Mrs. Wane, are you able to hear Stimela or anyone else?
No. I still can't. He's on mute, actually. I can see
Stimela,
he's on
kindly
mute.
unmute. Yes. Now he's unmuted his mic. Stimela?
I think maybe he needs to reboot. We experienced this yesterday.
Okay.
Hello,
He
Stimela.
needs
Stimela, to go backstage.
Okay,
Sort him
Stimela
out.
goes.
Stimela.
Okay. As Stimela heads back on backstage,
Stimela, let's meet
Mrs.
backstage as
Wane?
Ms. Wayne and Jody continue. Ms.
So, Mrs.
Wayne.
Wane, okay. You've spoke so well about the effects, but now going back to an organization, and when it comes to corruption, we know very well that corruption cannot be dealt with we cannot start from just anywhere. It has to start within an organization, within us ourselves. So what are the key measures that can be put in place by the HR manager or even the HR function to ensure that we don't allow our organization to be eroded down by corruption? What are the specific measures that can be put in place to ensure we curb this corruption within the organization first?
Oh, I'm seeing Stimela is talking, but I think no one can hear him. Okay. First of all, I think in terms of measures, I think as HR, it all starts also with putting in place policy documents that stipulate the way things must be done. For example, if we are talking about recruitment process, I think our policy documents should outline clearly what has to be done when a position falls vacant, for example. So that people know the procedure and how it is supposed to be done. You know, we have seen organizations where you come in the morning and you find somebody has been recruited. Okay? You ask when they were recruited and someone just said they did a headhunt. Some organizations, even an HR doesn't even know at which point a person was recruited. So I think policy documents need to be very clear and outline clearly a procedure, the procedure that is supposed to be followed when, for example, a position falls vacant. Also, we should also have clear policies on promotions, on transfers, and so on and so forth. Because we begin to see situations where when a manager has a misunderstanding with a subordinate, they recommend a transfer, even when that person doesn't deserve to be transferred. So for me, I think it is very important that that the policy documents outline clearly what should be done in whichever situation. They give guidance, because if that is very clear, it means even as an HR, you have got your mandate is to ensure that these policies are adhered to. So those measures need to be put in place.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wane, for that. And again, as you have said, there are the measures to be put in place. I believe also transparency might be one of them, because within an organization, the way you said that an HR realizes in the morning that a person has been recruited. So I think that is not even right. There should be transparency from the head up to the HR level, from the CEO himself. Yeah. And again, about training and development, it's an HR function. Do you believe that when you recruit a wrong person as an organization, you can be able to train them well, and then they give a better performance?
Well, for me, I think as an organization, you really need to understand what your strategy is and where you are going and what you want to achieve. Really, you cannot bring on board somebody who won't hit the ground running, because the moment you bring somebody on board, you expect them to be a self-starter. The moment they join the organization, they should be able to hit the ground running. So if you're going to recruit people that don't have the experience and also the qualification, obviously that is going to slow down your productivity. So it depends what positions you need. There are times, yes, when you can say you're going to hire a fresh graduate, and it depends what kind of position they're coming, they're joining the organization on. Because if you want to have a manager who's going to have people that he or she is managing down there, and the manager doesn't understand what they're supposed to do, then that's a problem, because then it means everything will be slowed. Okay, so you cannot bring people on board who do not know what they are supposed to do and need training, because remember that training is a process, and it's time consuming. When people are undergoing training, it means this productivity has been slowed in a way, because they have to attend that training. So if that training is taking long, it means on the other side you have to find somebody who's going to be doing the work, because you won't say, as this person is being trained, we're going to close down. So for me, I think as an organization, you really need to know that if you bring people who are not trained, already trained, you must understand that it comes with those challenges where you have to give them time to undergo training. So if you have got an objective that you need to achieve, a goal that you need to meet, really, if you're going to be sending these people for training, then it means it's going to hamper productivity. But also under the same training, I'll give you an example, Jody. I've seen where we have people in an organization. I saw it here in Zambia, under the Ministry of Local Government, where the operators were supposed to go for a training somewhere in the US on how to operate the dredgers, those dredgers that remove the weed from the rivers. But because they were supposed to go to the United States, directors ended up going there. Okay, the operators did not go. How did that happen? Who selected them for training? Because really, you need to understand the objective of the training. So if as HR people, we can authorize directors to go for a training that is meant for operators, then there's a problem. So
That's
even
an
when
epitome of corruption within the organization.
So it means that there's
Thank you.
corruption. It's about connection. It's because there's this. We've seen people attending training, even HR, allowing people to attend training, a training where they're not supposed to be, just because they are going to be given an allowance. So we really need to understand that training and development should be in line with the role that the person has in the organization, to ensure that it brings the efficiency and to the role. But if you send wrong people for training, it means that people who deserve to get the right training, if they don't get the right training, it means that it hampers productivity, and you cannot actually expect to perform well as an organization.
Thank you, Mrs. Swane. Thank you, Mrs. Swane, for that. I can see we have Stimela back on board and Dr.
Yes.
Jekete. So, Stimela, you were saying something before we lost you. So,
Yeah,
kindly carry on.
now you can hear me.
Yes, I'm getting you now clearly.
Okay, thank you. Let me just add something on what Mrs. Wane tried to explain us, which I appreciate, and which is the true within our organizations. The corruption, it is coming through the recruitment process within the organization. Let me tell you the truth, because even when we are talking about training and development, we can, for sure, we can try to train and develop people through the corruption, but the image and the credibility of the organizations will still, and people from outside, even from inside, they will still talking about, because they hear that someone was recruited on a bad position, which is not fit on. For me, I can add something. When we are recruiting people in the beginning, we have got a recruitment process before to hand over the employee to the head of department. I think we have already implemented the procedure and policies talking about corruption into, but we need to explain properly to the candidate, because he's still our candidate, before signing off his employee contract. We need to explain him properly within the procedures on the articles saying about corruption, if we need really to stop the corruption within our organizations. We need to explain during what we call in HR the full induction. The full induction is the whole process we are doing before to hand over the employee to the user. We can call it the head of department. We need to explain properly to our candidate how the company is going, what is the measures the company or the policy is saying about the corruption within the organization. I think if we do it properly, the candidate will join the company with good idea, with a clear mind, with a clear spirit, work spirit, and because they are talking among them. He will talk even to his colleagues that, no, in this company, they don't want corruption. Because let me try to explain what the HR guys explained to me. He was explaining me what the policies says about corruption. You see, this is on the beginning of the recruitment process, because the employee is joining us within the organization, and this is the right moment to talk to him. The second method we can use, we can pass through the union within the organization. We give them, because the union, they are in touch most of the time with our employees already employed. We can use the union. They can go through the employees on the site, trying to explain them how the company is running, how the company is not able to accept anymore the corruption within. Because what says the procedures or the policies? If they catch you with some proof, you are fired. You have been fired. If the employees know that, you will see that they are going to respect and follow company and company policies and procedures regarding corruption. I think, in my opinion, we need just to focus when we are implementing procedures and policies on the articles saying about the corruption within our organizations and try to explain it properly. If we don't do it in the beginning when we are recruiting people, because even if you are talking about a bad recruitment, even the head of department, If before he is an employee, manager or what, but he is an employee. But if himself he knows appropriate policies and procedures regarding corruption, he will stop that, because they are putting us on bad attitude, the head of department, when we are doing recruitment. I've got so much example I can explain to you guys, but you can understand that in short, we need to focus on our recruitment, on our policies and procedures when we are recruiting people. For me, it's a key point to avoid corruption within the organizations if we explain it properly to our employees.
Thank you, Stimela.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Wane, do you have anything to add before I bring the question in?
Yes.
Okay,
Please.
let me just. Okay, I was asking if you have anything to add or a question for Stimela, or should I share one question?
Oh, okay. Actually, yes. Let me just add also, you find that these policies, there are some organizations that don't have certain policies in place. Like, for example, if you talk about the policy of corruption and fraud and all that. So when these policies are not in place, people really do not understand the gravity of the offense when it is done, because people begin to be dishonest. Already you see people also receiving bribes for things that don't really matter. You find that you are trying to bring a supplier, people want to get bribes and so on, want to bring people that they know. But if these policy documents are in place, people understand, okay? You have policies on corruption, policies on declaring interest. All those things as HR, we need to put them in place so that even as people are joining the organization, they understand what kind of an organization they are joining, and they know that these are the consequences if they involve themselves in such behaviors. So for me, I think as HR, we have got a mandate to ensure that when these people are new staff, we explain to them our values as an organization, explain clearly these policies, consequences, explain the disciplinary procedures and all that, so that as people remain with the organization, they understand the implications of them involving themselves in.
Okay, thank you for that.
Can I add something I forgot to talk about?
It's okay, Stimela, kindly carry on.
Okay, I remember when I was working for ERG Africa, because they have got one project here in DRC called Metaco. We talk about code of conduct. Why can't we use that when we explain properly about corruption to our employees, and make them sign off the code of conduct? If the employee sign the code of conduct talking about corruption and fraud, as Mrs. Wane talk about corruption and fraud, or we can call it like that, corruption and fraud. If we make sign of our employees one official document, I think this also will help us to reduce the corruption within the organization, because they will be afraid, because when you sign off and you acknowledge that you sign off an official document talking about corruption and fraud within the company, I think you will be afraid to be corrupted or to do corruption within the organization. And I can add also something. We don't only talk about recruitment. Even people from procurement, so the supplier chain, the old supplier chain department, the guys from procurement, the guys who are getting in the suppliers, they are doing also corruption. We fire one people last year, one of our employee last year about that, because of what? He has been corrupted just to get in a supplier to provide cement within the company. And when we investigate, we get the true, the reality of the situation. The guy was being fired. You can see corruption is everywhere within the organization. But we, as the key department, we as the management advisor, we have that role to prevent and to stop from the beginning the corruption within our organization by following procedures, explaining procedure and policies properly to our employees, and by making them sign up. I think it's a good idea because we try it and it worked properly. So make them sign off the code of conduct paper, because they acknowledge that the company don't want corruption within. And if I have been corrupted, I will be fired. Okay.
Thank you, Stimela, for that. So I've had your presentation very well. Being that the HR function is in charge of ensuring we have everything streamlined within the organization, does it mean that when there is corruption in the organization, it is the HR who's failing in his or her responsibilities?
Yeah. For me, I agree with your opinion, because the management, the CEO or the senior staff will come back to HR and say, "You guys, you didn't conduct properly the full induction. You didn't induct properly your employees, because we cannot understand how people are corrupted unless we have got procedures and policies approved by the management. You didn't explain to them properly. You didn't do a job properly."
Okay, thank you. Yes, Mrs. Wane?
Well, I think for me, it is not I don't think we can entirely blame it on HR, because I think HR works hand in hand with the heads of departments, and it is not only the responsibility of HR to ensure that these values are upheld in the organization. So I think it's a responsibility of everybody, the effort of everybody, the CEO, management, and the head of or the heads of department, the managers that are managing these teams, to continue emphasizing on these values, okay, and also continue conducting trainings on these policies for employees to understand the policy documents that are in place, and also really, I don't think I would say it's entirely up to HR, but yes, of course, HR must. It's a wake-up call for HR when there's a lot of corruption in an organization. It means something that is very wrong, and we must get back to the drawing board, because HR is the one that recruits, the one that identifies talent. So when we are recruiting these people, we're ensuring that we are picking people that align with our cultures, our values, and all that. So if we get to have people who are so corrupt eventually in the organization, it means something went wrong at the point of recruitment. So we need to go back to the drawing board and re-strategize, because an organization that is corrupt is a dead organization. Believe me, it's a dead organization, because you can't go anywhere, because everything is going to be, and it seems like corruption has been accepted in the organization. Like, that's the culture, that's the way we do things. Okay, it begins to infiltrate everybody, and the problem that is there is corruption is contagious. People who come in the organization with corruption, but if they find themselves with people who are prone to corruption, they begin to adopt those mannerisms from those people, and everything just becomes corrupt. Every process becomes corrupt, from recruitment, suppliers, and all that. Okay, so for me, I think it's not entirely HR to blame, but everybody, especially the managers, the heads of departments, because we have to work together to ensure that the values are upheld, to ensure that the policies of the organization are actually enforced.
Thank you, Mrs. Swane. Dr. Jegede, we have you back. Hello?
Thank you, ma'am. Yes,
okay,
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Kindly give us your take.
Hello?
Hello, I'm saying kindly give us your take on corruption drawbacks to Africa's development, because I believe. Yes.
Thank you very much. And Mrs. Wani, that was a very beautiful insight and comment from you, because just as Riley said, it is not entirely the HR, because if you look at the setup of an average organization, HR is just a subset in the system. You have other line managers also who are also responding for executing. You also have the board, so who are also a constituent of the investors per se. So if they are buying as scarce or are not available, then execution becomes very difficult for HR. I was saying earlier before I got cut off that if you look at corruption, we have to first dissect it from the bigger environment we find ourselves. This is Africa. And if you take a look at history and records, you will come to realize that Africa is tagged and named the most corrupt continent in the world. And also, or similarly, if you take a look at development, you will see that Africa is also being tagged as one of the most underdeveloped continents as a result of corruption. Not because Africa does not have resources, but because they feel that these resources have been poorly micromanaged. And as a result of that, you see corruption being enthroned and then in every nook and cranny. Furthermore, if you look at the rate at which individuals were accused of corrupt practices, for example, in terms of embezzlement, you will see that my country, Nigeria, has been rated high as one of the most corrupt countries in the world, not just in Africa, in the world. And in spite of the abundance of resources we have, in spite of the fact that we have high numbers of individuals who are on the Forbes list, we still have the highest number of poverty. In fact, unemployment in Nigeria is more than 65%. This is largely caused as a result of corruption. Now, let's come back to corporate organization and how can we play it out, and what are the implications or the roles of HR. I mentioned earlier that if you look at 10 corporations in the United States or in 4100, they are capable alone of richer than the United States. If you pick a Google and you pick a Facebook and you pick an Amazon and you pick a Boeing and you pick a GE and you pick a Pfizer, and you pick an Uber, you will tell that these people are richer than so many countries in Africa. So it means corporate organizations have a lot of economic impact in the country. So if we think that corporate organizations don't have any value because they are not the political scientists or political determinants, then we are going to be making a very serious mistake. So how do we deal with corruption in our organizations? One, the first is that it has to come from the top. If the CEO is corrupt, if the CEOs lie to the investors, we're going to have issues. So corruption begins from there. So is the CEO also upright? I was in a client place, and then the CEO wanted me to talk about culture. Now, in my presence, I saw the CEO lying to the investors in my presence. And I said, wow. So what am I going to tell your employees? Because you, the CEO, in my presence as a consultant, you lied to the investors. So it has to start from the top. Every member of the top executives must be people that are reading of corruption. They must have the character, the attributes, and the personality, because they are the ones that frame the culture. They are the ones that frame the core values. So when they are lacking in culture, how will HR be able to prosecute cultural practices going down? So it has to start from the top. So when the top people have it and leave it out, and then it can be seen, because it has to be seen in how we execute. As I mentioned earlier, how do you respond to the stakeholders' expectations? Do we lie to investors? So if I lie to investors, the corruption is there. Do we lie to customers? So if we manipulate customers, whether they know or they don't know, then corruption has come in. Let me remind you that Ali Burton left Nigeria as a result of huge corrupt cases. The case is still in court today, both in the United States and in Nigeria. So it tells you how strong and how implicatable corruption can be to a corporate organization. Then, after these top executives, the line managers too must be able to leave it out, because sometimes one of the struggles with HR is that HR finds it difficult to meet sanctions on line managers as a result of the cadres. So if the top management formulates these policies on corrupt practices and corrupt issues, and then they leave it out, and then the line managers also enthrones this in their various functions and activities, then it becomes easy for HR to cascade to the lowest person in the system. Again, back to what Mr. Warner said, from time to time, we have to reorientate people, reinforce our cultural value, because do not forget that we live in a bigger society, communities affect us. So the more we reinforce our culture, the more we let people know that we will not take this, and the more we see that there are elements of cultural malpractices, we have to react quickly with interventions. What are these interventions? Coaching is an intervention. Mentoring is an intervention. Knowledge sharing session is an intervention. So whatever intervention that will be required, because it's not just only training. So you have to mentor, you have to discuss people. When you observe that certain behavioral practices are becoming evidence in practices, in processes, because in the 5 Ps, the process, the policy, the procedures, the people, the greatest challenge is always the practice. We have fine policies, we have fine programs, but execution becomes an issue because it has to do with behavioral, integration. So corruption is a behavioral issue. Then, as I mentioned, HR is not able to cascade and they reinforce it. And therefore, those who are coming in, just as Mr. Stimela said, when people are coming in, we define the arena and say, this is what we stand for. And these are our values, these are our culture, these are our practices. We don't take this, we don't take this, we don't take this, and we ensure. That's where HR comes in as a compliance manager, because it is easy to see, easy to display it, to write it. People can even sign for it. But in execution, it becomes something different. So HR comes in by ensuring that we enforce it through compliances and by ensuring that people align in practice to what we do. And from time to time, we carry out audits of all these practices. Sometimes you have issue with our policies. Our policies are 3-year-old, 5-year-old. They should go again for revalidation. Are they suboptimal? Are they adequate? Are they responding to the post-COVID era? For example, we are in a post-COVID era now. So some of those policies we have before COVID may not work again because they have to respond to the external reality of what we see. So these are my take, and I think by doing this, we'll rid Africa and our corporate organization of corruption.
Thank you, Dr. Jegede. The other thing is, in case an HR is failing in their role, meaning that the HR is corrupt. In case an HR is corrupt and failing in their role, do we really need to have that function within an organization? Stimela, what do you think? Is it really necessary to have an HR within an organization and they're not able to execute?
Yes, you say an organization can be exist without an HR. That's what you are trying to say.
I'm asking, is it possible for an organization to exist without an HR, since the HR we have in place is not able to execute and is devoid of transparency?
Is not able to run the organization without an HR guys or an HR team. The HR department is a key department, as I told you before, because of what? We are playing 2 roles. We are HR. We are employing. We are recruiting people. We are following them behind by with disciplinary. We are doing payroll. We are doing benefit something, but we are also advising the management. How can we advise the management without following what the management instructs us? Because the management can tell you, we need this to be implemented. And the corruption is coming behind the HR because of the corruption is an attitude. And the HR as a human, we are following our employees behind their attitude. How they can change their attitude. How can we advise them? But I think that an organization must have an HR team, and the HR team must make respect what the management want in terms of procedures and policies to be respected within the organization.
Thank you, Stimela, for that. Mrs. Swane, what's your take on that? Do we really need an HR in an organization when the HR is devoid of transparency?
Well, for me, I'll tell you for a fact that if we identify that there's corruption in an organization, really there's a problem. But one thing also I will tell you is that even if we say we don't need an HR, we fire the HR and say we'll do without an HR. Believe me, there is somebody else who's doing the HR role. And now that is a danger, because now you have a person who is not qualified, who has been overloaded with HR work. Someone is going to start doing the HR work, because an organization on its own cannot have people working in an organization and not have somebody who's responsible to oversee the HR activities. So for me, I think, well, we have seen organizations that are operating without HR person formally, but definitely there is somebody else who's doing the HR roles in that organization. And that being said, it means really you cannot run an organization without HR, because HR is key in an organization. And if an organization has to be successful, you need to have an HR person in place who oversees the HR activities.
Thank you, Mrs. Swane.
I can try to add.
Yes, Stimela,
okay.
carry on.
I can just give you an example with Chinese people. We have got Chinese in Africa, you know, all of you. And here in DRC, what the Chinese are doing is not also polite, I can say, or not good, but not polite. Because you can find in the Chinese companies, a mechanical is running an HR function. Because of what? Because they don't want proper HR guys to be on board within their organizations, because the HR guys will tell them the truth. The HR guys the qualified HR guys will tell them how to follow the country laws, or how to follow the standards, policies, and procedures. You see, that's an example just what you were trying to say, that a company or an organization can run without an HR guys. Chinese example, they are doing that. For them is possible to run without an HR. What can you imagine they can bring you guys an electrician or a mechanical to run the HR function? He is not qualified, as Mrs. Wane says. We need qualified HR guys to run the function and to implement the process and policies within the organization. That's my contribution on that.
Dr. Jegede, anything to add?
Sometimes last year, November, the CEO of McDonald's in the UK was fired. Why was he fired? He was found to be sleeping with one of the staff. This CEO had caused transformational successes for McDonald's in the US and Europe. In fact, by reckoning, he was rated one of the best CEOs ever in McDonald's history. Yet, he was found to have committed something that is going to affect the reputation of McDonald's. So while he was being fired, the HR knew about it. And then during the investigation, HR was accused of showing how do I put it? HR was not defining that loyalty to the organization, rather to the CEO by default, is his personality and not as the corporation. So HR was also asked to resign. Now, it is important to say that the most important is the corporate entity. The corporate entities must be guarded. And his interest is much more important because you are defining corporate capabilities. The corporate capabilities is the skills of every department, every individual. To aggregate is what gives you corporate capabilities. Everybody has competencies. When you bring it together, it gives you the corporate capabilities. Now, when HR, by default, the person and not HR as a function. Therefore, you deal with the personality behind the HR and not the HR as a function. We are not going to cut the legs because there's an injury and say, I don't need this leg again. So we remove the person who has misbehaved or who lacks the required integrity to power the HR department. And then we replace such an one with the competent, just as the two speakers have said, with the competent person that can man, that can run. Having said that, it is important to say that it is not enough to say because I have hired a good talent, that is the end. No, we keep developing, we keep reinforcing, because a person could come in good and then it could go bad. CEOs of Fortune's 100 have been fired because they went bad. So that you hire a person that is good as HR does not mean automatically it keeps on being good. There are checks. That's why you have the control. That's why we talk about governance, so that we can put everybody in check. The CEO is on check. The directors are on check. The line heads are also on check, including the HR. Also, they are also on check, so that if there are suboptimal practices that we are observing, we can quickly nip them on the board and correct them. Of recent, about 2 months ago, I got appointed by the British Council to work with some NGOs and develop those NGOs organizations. And then while working with them, some of them don't have HR departments. Some of them have HR departments. Now, this is what I found out. Those ones that have HR departments are doing very well, very better, well organized than those ones who don't have HR department or a person that is named and tagged as HR. As Mrs. Wani said, but by default, somebody somewhere was doing the HR role of HR, only that the person is not skilled and experienced in that field, but was doing it. So I found out that organizations, it doesn't matter your size, that don't have HR departments, just as Mr. Stimela said, who are you going to advise them? Because the role of HR, in fact,
Has it dropped off the call?
Dr. Jigede? Hello? Hello? I think
Yeah,
maybe he has dropped off the call. Yes, Stimela?
yeah, we can continue.
Yeah, so is it clear to say then that the HR is corrupt by association? And then how can the HR assist in clearing or cleaning up its accusation by association?
It's very simple. We have got HR platforms, even WhatsApp groups in each countries in Africa. How don't we talk about that? How don't we share that experience from each country with colleagues, so we can ensure that we are on the same page?
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Mrs. Wane, your take on that?
Yes, as Stimela said, I think that is it's got everything to do with communication. I think we need to be very clear in our communication as HRs, and also we need to exchange ideas, of course, with other colleagues in other organizations, and not isolating ourselves, because we are learning every day, and the experiences and the situations that we are encountering are different. And really, if we are very aggressive in our approach, we'll find that we'll be able to do better and improve the HR function. Also, I think it's got everything to do, I think, also with, as HR, I think it starts with us, like we have rightly said. I think at the point where we are doing the recruitment, at the point where we're doing the inductions, these are things that we need to, we need to address. Because if we don't address these things, we don't emphasize on ethics, integrity, on the values, these people that come in the organization, they begin to remember that they are coming with some things wherever they are coming from. They have got other values, other integrity. They've got another some form of integrity. I don't know if they have integrity or not, but we need to emphasize these things as they join the organization, so that they know that the organization that they have joined, this is, they've got, they believe in this. Okay, they stand on this, to continuously communicate them and not relent as HR, and ensure that there's enforcement. Because if we don't enforce, people begin to lax, thinking the HR is sleeping. So we need to continuously communicate, continuously exchange ideas, and be alert, and ensure that we are on our toes, and protect our profession.
Thank you, Ms. Wani. One final question before we give our closing remarks. We have HR bodies. Do the HR bodies aid in any way HRs who find themselves that they are associated by, maybe they are accused by association? Is there a way in which the HR bodies are assisting HRs who are finding themselves in difficult situation, whereby they are trying so much to ensure that they work, they're trying to be effective, but to no avail?
I didn't catch your question. Can
I'm
you
so
come
sorry.
again?
Let me repeat it. Yes. I'm saying there are HR bodies. We have HR bodies. For example, I'm saying, if in case we have an HR who's finding himself in a situation whereby they're in a corrupt organization, they're trying their best to ensure that they clear maybe the organization, to ensure that they get rid of, they eradicate corruption within that organization. So my question was, does the HR bodies assist such an HR in any way? And how do they assist them? Stimela, did you get my question?
Yes, I can get you now.
As you think of it, or are you ready to respond? We can forward it to somebody else, like maybe Miss
Yes,
Wani is ready.
yes, you can for the time I'm trying to formulate.
So, Mrs. Wane, my question was, HR bodies, are they assisting the HRs the way they're supposed to? In case an HR finds themselves in a situation whereby the organization is so much corrupt, they're trying so much to clear, to eradicate corruption, but they're finding themselves a bit ineffective. How does the HR bodies assist?
Well, that question, I cannot really give a definite answer, but I think it's borders on the HR themselves to engage the association or the HR body and present their situation. Because if they're experiencing some corruption in their organization, for example, the institute cannot know about it until they officially inform them. So that really has to do with the individual HR person taking it up and saying, okay, for me, I think I cannot condone this kind of behavior, and I will try and see how I can be helped and how I can help eradicate corruption in my institution. So you more like take it there so they help you. And I think if you present it to them, I think they are more than ready to help you and see how they can just they can just see how they can just come in and see how they can give you some assistance. But of course, corruption issues are very complicated, because you yourself, you need to see that this now has gotten to a level that we need to be helped. And of course, if you identify that it is there, definitely it means there are some cases that you have had. Obviously, you've conducted some survey, and you've seen that there are a lot of cases that are in line with corruption, and you are having to dismiss people because of corruption. So when that happens, I think it only becomes a problem, like Dr. Jagede said. If it's coming from the top, you have a problem. If you find that it is right there, the CEO himself or herself is corrupt. So if you take it to the institution for help, I think they can only help you up to a certain level. But I think it's basically something that you need to sort out from the institution yourself, as an organization, yourselves, because the institution can only tell you consequences of corruption and so on and so forth, and how it's affecting the organization productivity. But I don't really see how they can really help you. For me, I think they can give you the advisory support and all that, and come and talks and so on, but the change, you need to choose to change. You need to choose to change as an organization, or if you see that people are indulging in corruption, it comes from yourselves. So you can only get as much help from the HR bodies, but at the end of the day, it still remains with you as an organization to step up and eradicate the corruption yourselves in there, because for me, I think the buck stops with the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Wane. Mr. Stimela, in case you have anything to add.
I think it is one talk about the all aspects, but I can add just one point. In short,
Okay.
you need to be just be honest, because corruption is about honesty. You see, if you are honest, and you will need also support or assistance or advice from the HR board. But if you are not honest, how can we help you?
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Stimela. So now for your closing remarks, we will kick off with Dr. Jagede. You give us your closing remarks, then Stimela, we close with Mrs. Wane. Jagede, the floor is yours. Dr. Jagede, kindly.
Thank you very much, and thanks to every other person here. Mr. Stimela, thank you. Wani, thank you very much. And thank you also the moderator for the opportunity and the platform. And I also thank everyone here, Judy, Richard, Grace, Annie, and every other person that I may not be able to mention their names for this privilege. It is imperative that we take HR to a higher level and pedestal in the wake of global disruptions. Disruptions has affected a lot of activities in Africa and the globe as a whole. And in particular, as Africa is being perceived, we can change the narratives completely. Mr. Stimela mentioned something very important, in honesty. So as a practitioner, you have to live it out. You have to demonstrate it. You have to preach what you practice and practice what you preach. If every single person as practitioner of HR will live it out, in no time we'll be able to support our organizations too in advancing the process against corruption in workplaces. And when we are able to take care of corruption in workplaces, in no time we'll have.
We've lost connection to Dr. Jagede. As we wait for him to reconnect, can we have Stimela kindly carry on?
Okay, thanks so much to all the team. I'm more than happy, I can tell you, to participate to this panelist. Thank you to Martin and your team. I'm very, 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 very happy for you guys. Thank you to Mrs. Wane. It was a very, very good opportunity to share with you together. I can try to say something. We are HR guys. We are management advisor. We need to play our role. We can't leave it to other departments and start saying things are going bad within our organization. Corruption and fraud still in our organization. We are HR. Let's play our function. Let's follow while we are implementing procedures and policies, because that topic of corruption, it's come through the HR function. That's why you say the role of HR. Because of what? If we didn't follow properly, if we didn't explain properly to our employees the corruption regarding the procedures and policies, we are going to fail. And because it will affect even the production, as someone within the panelists talk about, it will affect the target of the production. Because of what? We didn't recruit appropriate people or qualified people to a certain roles. Let's play 100% our role, and we will support the management. We will support the organization to achieve what they plan for in terms of production, in terms of training and development, in terms of company or organization culture, in terms of everything. Because of corruption, we will lose more things, and the management, the CEO or the general manager will come behind us and start saying, "You guys, you didn't help me to achieve what I should do." In short, I can advise to our HR guys or HR colleagues, we need to keep by changing experience with our colleagues from other countries in terms of corruption. Why we can't even exchange the policies, HR policies and procedures? You can ask your friend from Nigeria, from Mozambique, from Kenya. Can you assist me with these policies? Because I want to implement a policy, and I want to make it strong in terms of what. We need to keep that experience. We need to keep in touch and to make our continent, Africa, going ahead. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Stimela. Mrs. Wane, your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Jody. Well, this came at short notice, and really I've enjoyed myself. I think the discussion has been very good. And thank you very much to Stimela. Thank you to Dr. Jegede. And indeed, thank you to the participants that are with us on this session. And thank you also to you, Jody, for moderating and asking the right questions. I think it's been a very interactive session. I must say, we, the HR, have got a role to play in eradicating corruption in these organizations where we are. I think we really need to understand what our mandate is and give support to management and advise management on policies and procedures and how and preserve the culture and integrity of the organization. Because if we go to sleep, it means the organization is affected, and you will realize that productivity will also be affected, because we need to ensure that we make our organizations our employers of choice and brand them in such a way that people want to join our organizations. So we have got a role to play, and we need to ensure that we communicate with clarity. Our policies need to be revised Let's not have outdated policies. Let's ensure that we revise our policies. Let's ensure that we are strong on enforcement, making sure that people understand what is in these policies. We must explain, have continuous trainings for people. When we're doing onboardings, make sure that when onboarding new hires, we are clear so that when people join the organization, they understand the values that need to be upheld in the organization. Otherwise, corruption is something that we need to fight as a fight force, because alone you cannot fight corruption. You can say I won't be corrupt, but the people that are surrounding you, if they are corrupt, it means you will also get affected in a way, and the image of the organization is going to be tarnished. So what we need to know is we have a role to play as HR, right from recruitment, right when we are selecting these people and emphasizing. In fact, it should all start even just from the job advert itself. We must clearly spell out what we stand for, so that even as we begin to attract these people to our institutions, people know what kind of the caliber of people that we want to attract, and even the people that want to apply. When they see, they'll assess themselves and see whether they can uphold these values, and right from recruitment, they will refrain from applying and joining the organization. And as Africa as a whole, I think we really need such sessions where we just come together and share ideas and share different experiences of what we're experiencing, so that we can just uphold the HR function. I think it's looked down upon. I think now that we are speaking out a lot, we have seen people beginning to acknowledge, even management is acknowledging that HR is actually a strategic position, and organizations that have embraced HR and accepted that it's a strategic position are actually doing very well. Those organizations that believe that HR is more just about being a rubber stamp, they're still struggling. So we HR need to speak good about HR. We need to fly the flag high as HRs and ensure that our profession is respected right from the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Wane. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, panel. That is Dr. Jegede, Mr. Stimela, and Mrs. Wane for your objective discussion and contributions. And for our participants and everyone behind the scene, we thank you so much for making time to be here and for making this possible. Unfortunately, due to time constraint, we have come to the end of our session. So everyone, let's have a good afternoon and have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I forget to thank you for the moderation. Thank you, Jody.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate so much.
Okay, I appreciate
It was on short notice, but we really tried to engage.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, we have. It was short notice indeed.
Can you, Jody, can you share it through the forum, please? The WhatsApp group?
The WhatsApp group. Kindly, you can add me. I'm not in, but I'll speak to Rachel so that she can ensure I'm added in your group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Have a lovely afternoon and a good day.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.